In September 2022, another lawyer contacted us about a potential case. All that we knew at the time was that a couple was visiting from China and they were walking as pedestrians in Gwinnett County when they were both hit by a car that was turning right. The husband was injured and the wife was tragically killed.
Was she hitting the crosswalk?
It appears that way.
All right, I was going to push some traffic down that road just to clear it out.
Nobody's seen it, from what I can tell. They said that they kind of, I don't know. I don't know. There's no damage to the car.
Yeah.
At the time, when we met with the husband, we learned that there was a truck that was parked at the intersection. And that sort of piqued our interest to figure out what role did that truck potentially play in the collision. Because we thought that at that time we had a good claim against the driver that was turning right and hit them, but as is often the case, there's not enough insurance to cover all of our clients' damages. And with there being a death, we wanted to make sure that we investigated every potential claim. So we started trying to figure out what role, if any, did this truck play in the collision. So we hired an investigator, we sent an attorney out there, we conducted interviews, we sent Open Records Act requests out to Gwinnett County and got body cam footage, dash cam footage. And what we found is there was actually a large project that was taking place at the corner of this intersection. It was the intersection of Old Peachtree Road and Meadow Church Road in Gwinnett County. And a large condominium complex was being built, and as part of that, they had to upgrade the traffic signals there. So the construction company that was building the condos hired a contractor, and that contractor was at the corner of the intersection at the time our client got hit. They had construction equipment, construction materials and debris blocking the sidewalk, but what was really important was there was a truck, a large bucket truck that was blocking the crosswalk. So when the husband, who survived, hired us, we talked to him about what was going on, and he told us there was a bucket truck there that was blocking the crosswalk. Kind of looking at the scene and figuring out what role this may have played in the collision, that bucket truck, if it was parked there blocking the crosswalk, could have blocked the line of sight between the driver turning right and the husband and his wife. When we got the body cam footage, it corroborated everything that our client told us. We saw the bucket truck there. It was blocking the crosswalk. It was something where a driver turning right would not have been able to see two pedestrians if they were crossing there. One of the big challenges in the case, though, was trying to figure out who owned that bucket truck. Because before we even got the body cam footage, our client had no clue who owned it. We weren't able to really turn up any leads from our on-site investigation when we talked to people that were there as part of the construction crew at the condominium complex. But when we got the body cam and the dash cam footage, we saw the logo and the name of the company on the truck. And so that was a huge break in the case that allowed us to find out who was responsible for that truck being there. But another really big challenge in the case, and this was a big hurdle, was the police officer that investigated it found that our client and his wife were at fault. And that was based off of his assessment that the traffic light signal was red. There was a dispute. The driver who was turning right said that the traffic light was red, which would have meant that the pedestrian signal was red, meaning that our client shouldn't have crossed. Well, our client said the light was green. He said that the traffic light was green and his light was white. That's the go signal in Georgia. The pedestrian signal turns white. And so we were trying to reconcile the evidence. You know, was the husband correct? Was the driver correct? Was somebody intentionally lying? You know, why would our clients who are visiting from China and aren't familiar with the roadways, they would be extra cautious? Why would they have crossed on a red? It just didn't make any sense. And so I started thinking about it and I thought, you know, what if both people are right? You know, our client said they were standing there and the light was red at first and then it turned green and the signal turned white for pedestrians, and then they crossed. And I started thinking of my own experience in driving. I mean, how many times have we as drivers pulled up to an intersection to turn right and the light's red? And so you're starting to look to see for oncoming traffic. Well, in the interim, while your head is turned to the left and you're not looking up at the light may turn green. And so that was the theory that we developed in the case, was the light may have been red when she stopped. And our client said that it was red at first when they approached the crosswalk and walked around the truck. But There was another good piece of evidence we got from the body cam footage. So our client talked about the truck that was at the corner blocking the crosswalk. But when we got the body cam footage, we saw that on the left, there was actually another bucket truck parked over there. And so what that did was that presented a sight obstruction for a driver turning right. If they were trying to look left, they would have to focus their attention even more to make sure that no cars were coming. Because they couldn't just look and see unobstructed whether cars were coming, they would have needed to pull up, look around, inch forward, and look around that truck to make sure that no cars were coming. So when we got that body cam footage, it really provided us a lot of information that was helpful in the case. And so we filed the lawsuit. We filed the lawsuit against the utility company and the driver who hit our clients. And that part was important because the company that owned and operated that bucket truck and that was responsible for that whole construction zone, they were based in Cherokee County. The driver lived in Gwinnett County. If we had settled with the driver before filing a lawsuit and accepted her insurance policy limits, which the insurance company offered, we would have had to file that lawsuit in Cherokee County. And so by not settling with the Gwinnett County driver, we were able to put the case in a much better position. And you go to the next page, 691, sidewalk detour diversion. Have you ever seen a setup like that where looking at sidewalk detour? When we got the body cam footage, I started doing research and I wanted to look and see, what kind of industry standards exist. And so I did my research and found that there are clear guidelines that apply in what's called the MUTCD. That's the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And so we did our research, and in looking at all of those standards, we saw that the company that was parked there doing work there, whose truck was blocking the crosswalk, they didn't follow the guidelines that existed. And so we thought we had a really strong case, and we filed a lawsuit against both the company that owned and operated the truck and was responsible for setting up the traffic control zone, as well as the driver. And we filed a lawsuit in Gwinnett County. We did discovery, we got documents, and we started scheduling depositions. And the more that we dug, the more helpful information that we got. So one of the things that we found out was this company really didn't have any written traffic control plans. And so with the MUTCD, anytime you're doing work on or near the roadway and you're going to be affecting traffic, even pedestrian traffic, you have to have a clear traffic control plan. And in doing the depositions, not only did they not have a written traffic control plan, but the workers who were there, who were on site, didn't even really know who was going to be doing what and where things were going to be parked and what the guidelines were for pedestrians. Who was responsible for the traffic control plan on that date?
There wasn't really a plan,
Okay.
per se.
One of the things that we really wanted to find out though was, did anybody see what color the traffic light was? Because if we could establish that the traffic light was green, that would mean that the pedestrian signal was also white, that our clients could go. When we did some of the depositions, we got testimony from at least one employee who worked at the scene who said, when the incident happened, I heard it, and I looked up instantly and saw that the light was green.
I stood up and looked, and I could see the car come to a stop. We just see the top of it over the bends, and I saw the man laying in the road. And I looked up, heard it, set up, and I looked up, and I saw that there was the walk sign was up, and that the light was green.
And that was a key break in the case because the defendant early on had denied that the light was green. Even though their own employee later testified that it was green, their position was the light was red, our clients were crossing on a red signal, and they were at fault. In addition to the police officer saying that our client was crossing on the red signal, the police officer determined that our client was passing outside the crosswalk. Now, that was kind of an interesting finding for us for one important reason. If our client wasn't perfectly in the crosswalk, it shouldn't have mattered because the truck was blocking the crosswalk. The whole reason this company was negligent was because they improperly blocked the crosswalk and didn't have some other pedestrian path that was safe for them. And they're bringing pedestrians into direct conflict with traffic that's going around the work zone. But we did want to show that our clients were where they needed to be, and our client maintained all along that he had crossed in the crosswalk, that he and his wife were in the crosswalk when they got hit, and that they didn't do anything wrong. So in the discovery phase of the lawsuit, and we're doing depositions, not only did we find that the traffic signal was green, which means the pedestrian signal was go, that our clients could cross, but there was an employee who looked up immediately after the impact and saw the nose of the car was just over that second line of the crosswalk. So if you've got these two lines of the crosswalk, the car had passed over the first line and the nose of it was just over that second line. And our clients were right in front of it. And that was important because if you think about just human reaction time and hearing something and how long it takes to look and that the vehicle's traveling, if our clients were that close to the crosswalk when that person looked up, there was time that passed from the time they were hit and the time the person looked up and saw them. And so when you back that up, that means that our clients were likely squarely within that crosswalk when they got hit. But again, even if they weren't, this eyewitness established for us that they were certainly at least very close to the crosswalk. This is sort of an aerial view. That X, do you remember if that's the area where Mr. Chin landed?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember where he was before he ultimately landed there? Like what direction he went? Was it from crosswalk to there? Was it from down here to up there?
He was on the left side of the vehicle. When I looked up, the front of the vehicle was about right there.
So when you looked up, the front of the vehicle was close to the crosswalk?
Yep.
All right. Can you draw a line where you remember seeing the front of the vehicle? All right. This line that we've drawn here, this is where the front of the white Mercedes was after you heard the sound and looked up.
Yes.
All right. So during discovery and during the depositions, we were able to prove that the traffic light was green and our clients had the go signal for pedestrians and that they did not cross outside the crosswalk. Those were two big facts that really helped the case. But what was really important was we were able to show that the company really didn't have a good understanding of the MUTCD. Anytime that work is being done on or near the roadway that's going to affect traffic, even pedestrian traffic, there needs to be a temporary traffic control plan. And what we found out in the lawsuit was that this company really didn't have proper standards in place for how this would be implemented on a day-to-day basis. A lot of the people that we deposed really didn't have a great understanding of it. One of the things I did with the person who was overall responsible for the job site that day and was responsible for the temporary traffic control plan was I walked him through the MUTCD with some slides and asked him yes or no questions if certain things were done or not done. And the language in those questions was borrowed directly from the MUTCD. I'm going to ask you some yes/no questions, and we're going to check the box yes or no. Did North Cherokee Electrical have a traffic control plan?
No.
All right, can you mark that? Did North Cherokee Electrical have a plan that described the measures used for facilitating drivers and pedestrians through the work zone?
No.
All right, you can check that. Was the North Cherokee Electrical bucket truck obstructing the crosswalk?
Yes.
Did North Cherokee Electrical do anything to alert pedestrians that the sidewalk was closed?
Obstruction form.
Was the crosswalk closed for pedestrians?
Obstruction form.
Yes.
Okay. List everything that North Cherokee Electrical did to address the impact that the work zone had on pedestrians.
Just some barrels, maybe some cones.
Okay. This is Plaintiff's Exhibit 4, the last photo. The barrel that you're talking about is this one right here.
Yes.
Is that the only thing that North Cherokee Electrical did to address the impact on pedestrians, or did y'all do something else?
That would be it.
Why weren't any signs put up prior to this incident?
I just don't believe they gotten around to it at the time.
Are they supposed to put up the signs before they occupy the temporary traffic control zone?
It's common practice to get stationed and then.
Okay. Let me ask you about the MUTCD. You understand y'all are required to comply with that, correct?
Correct.
And does the MUTCD require signage to be put up before occupying the temporary traffic control zone?
Possibly. I'm unfamiliar.
Did you intend, by placing this barrel, orange barrel here, to convey to pedestrians that they should not walk through that area?
Sure.
And why did you not want pedestrians walking through that area?
Possibly unsafe. Where did you think they would go if you blocked off the sidewalk? Turn around.
And I was able to show by having this employee answer these questions that they didn't follow a lot of these guidelines. So what went from potentially only a $50,000 car wreck case ended up being a much bigger case because we were able to identify another defendant who played a role, who was negligent, whose negligence contributed to the wreck. And that defendant had $6 million in insurance. So what went from potentially only a minimum policy limits insurance settlement turned into a case that settled for over $6 million. We got every dollar of insurance that was available from every potential defendant. And no amount of money was going to replace his wife or replace the mother for the children that she left behind. But we were at least able to do something to get some measure of justice for our clients. But the other part that was really rewarding is we had a defendant that was engaging in unsafe practices and putting the public at risk. And by bringing this lawsuit, that defendant is going to think twice the next time they go out, set up a work zone. They're going to be more likely to follow proper protocols and to do things in a safe manner so that the public is safe, and so it's less likely that something like this will happen again.